God is love. Amen. You may be seated.
Wonderful. I hope you know why we're singing that, and if you don't, you'll learn very soon. Hey, a little music trivia time. What is this song? First, it is the song about love. Well, that narrows it down. Every song is about love, I guess. Michael Masser composed the music. Linda Creed wrote the lyrics. I would be shocked if you know that. It was originally recorded in 1977 by George Benson, hit number 2 on the soul charts, became the first R&B top 10 for Arista Records, and was featured in the film that year called The Greatest, about Muhammad Ali, and that gives you a clue about the song as well. The song did very well in the U.S., several other countries also, but took off really when it was recorded by a vocal powerhouse in 1985. One of the great female voices of all time, I would say. It hit number 1 in the U.S., Australia, and Canada. Anybody know the song yet? The singer sadly died in 2012 in a drug-related accidental drowning in a bathtub. The singer's name is Whitney Houston. What a voice. The song starts with these words: I believe the children are our future. Now do you know the song? Greatest love of all. And do you know what the song is about? The greatest love of all? The lyrics in the chorus: the greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Can I tell you, I love Whitney Houston. I love the song, but I'd also like to disagree with it too. There are some great loves in this life, and certainly love of self is normal and natural. You should love yourself. But I would like to go on record and say there are greater loves than this one. And you'll see this very soon. We come to our text. We're almost finished with Matthew chapter 22. If you thought the religious leaders of Israel had given up their quest to stop Jesus, you're mistaken. They take their turns, tripping him, trapping him, impossible questions being peppered at him, but they can't stop him. They can't find a reason to accuse him, and they can't kill him yet. The chief priests, then the Pharisees, and the Herodians, and now the Sadducees last week have tried to put him on the horns of a dilemma, paint him into a corner, lay a trap for him to step into, but they all have failed. And every time they fail, it shows his genius and their limitations and their ignorance and their hypocrisy. They're not done yet. The news hits the Sadducees, or that the Sadducees had failed. It hits the Pharisees, and they send one of their own. And here we come to Matthew 22, starting in verse 34. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together, and one of them, an expert in the law, tested him with the question, Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? It's a good question, really. The popular debaters of the time would have weighed in on this. The great thinkers would have wrestled with this. Theologically speaking, which would be the biggest, the greatest, the best? Everyone wanted to know, and it's a good time to ask Jesus if it were a sincere question. But Matthew tells you what's up with their game. This expert may want to know, but really wants to test him. Even though Jesus sees the obvious trap laid before him, he knows the motives of the man. Still he answers well, speaks the truth. Listen to this. Jesus replied, Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. From one Jewish man to another, both living under the old law, the Mosaic law, filled with hundreds and hundreds of laws. Which one, though, is the best? Which one sums it all up? Others have concluded there are 613 laws, and it must have been a popular thing to debate which one was greatest. Jesus, though, doesn't guess. He doesn't surmise or suppose or suggest. He emphatically declares, boldly says it, this is the one. And plenty of rabbis would have included his comments here in their own comments. Deuteronomy 6:5, it's what we read first thing this morning. The youngest ones would have memorized it. All would have prayed it. Every Jew would have let it cross their lips every day in their routine, cherished it with wonderful devotion. If the man wants to know it, there's your answer, Jesus says. But he can't leave it there because there's another one that trails slightly behind it. One is almost connected to it, as some would say, inextricably linked to it. This one comes from Leviticus 19:18. You know what it is? And the second is like it, Jesus says. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commands. It's simple. Love the Lord and love others. It's simple. Love the Lord most and love the others as you would yourself. Everything in the law and the prophet hangs on these two commands, Jesus says. And just a side note here, I think sometimes we come to some bad conclusions, assuming something is wrong with the Old Testament, the old law. We've come up to thinking maybe it's not as good as we wish. Maybe it doesn't work. And it is temporary and it is lacking, but just so you know, Jesus had a high view of the law and the prophets. He loved the old law. He mentions, if you don't remember this, back at the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, he mentions this. Listen to this. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law and the prophets. Oh, no. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. So here he has a chance to boil all of them down to what really matters most. And he is in the process of fulfilling the old law by his perfect life, keeping the law, his death, burial, and resurrection, and he gives us now the keys to understanding all of it. All of it, boiled down, comes to this. This is it. This completes it. This perfects it. This sums it all up, covers it, and fulfills it all. Erdman says, the reply of Jesus is startling in its insight and its simplicity. He declares that the whole duty of man, the full sum of moral obligations, the essence of all divine law is embodied and expressed in one word. The word is love. The love must be exercised in two directions, first toward God and then toward men. Some simplistic, powerful statements Jesus makes, quoting from the old law and saying, gentlemen, this is it. To look at both of these commands that I suspect you already know, first let me say this. There was a girl in our youth group when I was a youth minister. She was a really good girl. I would call her a leader among our young people. And she had the habit, as many did during that time, of using superlatives too much. She might talk about, and other people, plenty of other people did it during those years, but she might say about the movie she saw Friday night, it was the best movie ever. And that's what she would say, the best movie ever. And then a song would come on the radio as we're driving down the road in the church van, the old church van, and she'd say, greatest song of all time. And then she'd say where her parents just ate before they came to the trip, and she'd say, love that restaurant more than anything else in the world. And if those descriptions she used were accurate, I would be good with that. But if you got to know the girl, you would hear her describe other movies as the best ever, and other songs as the greatest of all time, and the other restaurants as her absolute favorite. In these glowing ways, every movie and song and eatery cannot be the best. It can't. In plain English, there can only be one best. My daughter cannot have several best friends at the same time, even if she wants to. There is one greatest. There is one favorite. There is one at the top of every list. There is only number one time, first, and that's all. Now, we don't mind the language. I know we all get excited and do like teenagers do. Best ever. It's okay. We really mean it was good or it was bad, the worst ever. But you have to know English. There is one, and only one first, and nothing else can be first except the one. And only one love can occupy in our hearts and in our souls and in our minds top place, biggest part, largest territory, first place. I think Jesus is getting at that, and I think we understand that. The greatest command is the call for the greatest love that can only go to the greatest one who has ever been, God. And He deserves the spot. He deserves the place. He deserves the honor. He deserves the love. Love the Lord the most. Love the Lord with your whole heart and with your whole soul and with your whole mind, with everything you have and everything you are, as some would say, with every fiber of your being. Love Him that much. And when you compare it to every other love in your life, and all the other loves are good, but they do not compare. This love for the Lord should overpower and overshadow and overcome every other love. There is no love that should be like this love you have for the Lord. And then there's the love for others, love for your neighbors. God loves people. That's why He made people. He loves them. And you cannot love God first if you don't love other people also. You can't honor Him while at the same time dishonoring them. You can't love God, so you say, and not love the people that He has made and died to save. John in his letters will hit that home. Those who love the Lord must love others. You can't hate your brother and love the Lord. It's impossible. And so this together is a high calling. I know. Love the Lord and love those that He loves. And there is no greater calling than this. Our theme this year, Brookline, you can see it on our banners. Make a difference. Help. Serve. Love. You want a job this week? Help. Serve. Love. It's your calling. Having loved the Lord, then go and do likewise to all others. This week, don't say it. It's easy to say. Do it. Love indeed. Do love. Practice love. Actually, practically, intentionally love. I like what some other writers have written because in our country, in America, we have used and abused the word love. It can mean anything and it can mean nothing. I like what some of them have said. Wearsby, to love God is not to have good feelings about Him. For true love involves the will as well as the heart. Where there's love, there will be service and obedience. Barclay. To God we must give total love, a love which dominates our emotion, a love which directs our thoughts, and a love which is the dynamic of our actions. We're to love God and man, not with a nebulous sentimentality, but with total commitment which issues a devotion to God and a practical service of men. One more, hair. In an age when the word love is greatly abused, it's important to remember that the primary component of biblical love is not affection, but commitment. Warm feelings of gratitude may fill our consciousness as we consider all that God has done for us, but it's not warm feelings that He demands, rather a stubborn, unwavering commitment. I think before I leave this too, I want to point something else out, and that is there are other loves, and they're good loves. In fact, there's one that I think is greater than this, and see if you agree or not. There's one more love I want to point to from the Scriptures. There's one more that I think is more important than these. Do you know what it is? John 15:13 says, "There is no greater love than this, that one would lay down his life for his friends." And that may sound hypothetical, but that is history, because that is what Jesus did. The love, this love, His love is the greatest of all loves. He loved us in a way that is almost unbelievable. In the way that He loved us, you could say there's no greater love than that one, than His. And when we compare our loves with His, I would say there is no comparison. 1 John writes in chapter 4, several different verses, kind of weaving his way through these thoughts of what love really is. And he says, verse 7, "Dear friends, let's love one another, because love comes from God." There it is. Verse 9, "This is how God showed His love among us." What is it? He sent His one and only Son into the world that we might live through Him. Verse 9. Verse 10, "This is love." Here it is. What is it? Not that we love God, but that He loved us and sent His Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. So verse 11, "Dear friends, since God has loved us, we should love one another." And verse 19, "We love because He first loved us." So far in Matthew, We have wrestled with some difficult texts. You've heard me stand up here and say, this is hard. This is hard to understand some of the, and we're not done yet. There's some more coming in the next chapter, which you'll see. There are some places that I am not sure I fully understand. But to me, this passage is not hard at all to understand. I think a child can tell you what he means here. There's no need to dissect the sentences or decipher the original language or digest the difficult meaning because it's hard. It takes little effort to know what Jesus is saying. Ask a child, I think he or she can tell you. No, the difficult part is judging our own hearts and souls and minds to see if we are doing this. Easy to talk about this love, more difficult to love like this. I think if we were honest and we asked ourselves how we're doing, maybe you would agree with me. I think maybe we should fall on our faces and confess that we don't love like this. Could anyone among us stand up and say, I love God with everything I have and everything I am? I love people in the same way I love myself. There is no hindrance with me. I love God most and love others equally so. I think this passage is not hard to take in. It's just hard to live out. And when I compare my love for Him, my love for others, with what I am called to do, I am embarrassed. It is my goal. Even as I fall down and say, I have so far to go, it is still my goal. It's my aim. It's our calling that God has given us. And if He gives us enough time, I hope all of us can say our love for Him and others has grown. I hope that's the truth. When we consider our loves today, and if you are honest, and if you say, I come up short, then could I suggest something? It's what we've already done in this assembly. It's what we've done in our communion time. But would you look for a while and stare for a moment at the cross and watch the Son of God, the Son of Man, who is pinned there by Himself on His own as He bleeds out. And if you could somehow understand that love, in Matthew's gospel, in just a few chapters, that is going to happen. By the end of this week of Jesus' life, He will be there doing that. And do you know why? Because He loves you that much. And if all of us could maybe just go there for a while and stay there for a time and remember that this week, it might just drive us to deep, deep gratitude and to drive us to want to love Him most with all of our hearts and all of our souls and all of our minds, and to love others in much the same way. Really, I would tell you this isn't hard to understand. It's just challenging to do. So as we leave this place, say our amen and walk out the door. Let's live out this kind of love. Let's love like that. Let's stand and sing. Come if you.
Come thou fount of